Warning: the following episode contains unapologetic commentary, heavy language, political bluntness, and opinions not approved by the Ministry of Feelings. If you're easily offended, chronically fragile, or part of the online mob that thinks disagreement is violence, this may not be the show for you. Listener discretion is advised and encouraged.
Tonight, Washington is doing Olympic-level mental gymnastics trying to spin the newly released Trump assassination files. The kind that make the official narrative look like it was written by interns who ran out of coffee and honesty on the same day. Meanwhile, the mainstream media is having a historic meltdown of its own. CNN and MSNBC are bleeding viewers so fast it looks like someone's unplugged the network from life support, and executives are panicking in back rooms trying to figure out how to blame conservatives for their own collapse. And just when you thought the day couldn't get dumber, multiple states are now openly challenging federal orders, sparking a National Guard showdown that has bureaucrats sweating harder than Kamala Harris in a policy interview. But don't worry. The same government that ignored warnings about a would-be assassin, the same media that can't tell truth from ratings, and the same federal agencies that can't keep states in line, all assure you everything is under control. Which in DC language means we're duct-taping another disaster and hoping nobody notices until Friday. Welcome to Thursday, where the truth isn't just inconvenient, it's unavoidable. Welcome back to Data and Dissonance, your daily truth injection for America's drive home. It's Thursday, November 20th, 2025, and tonight's episode is hotter than a congressional hearing with no teleprompter. Because new information just dropped on the Trump assassination attempt. And let me tell you right now, it's not what they wanted us to see. Matthew Crooks, security breakdowns, buried warnings. The whole thing feels less like a report and more like the rough draft of a political thriller someone tried to shred. But before we dive into the chaos, let me bring in the crew. The voices that turn this table into the most dysfunctional family reunion in America. First up, Brian, the man who runs on pure MAGA octane. If patriotism were a fuel source, he'd be powering the Texas grid alone. He's ready to scorch the earth, roast the media, and remind America that the left can't meme. Then we've got Rachel, our truth sniper, independent, sharp, and allergic to BS. She doesn't care if it's a Republican lie, a Democrat illusion, or a bipartisan clown show. If it's stupid, she's calling it out with a vocabulary that would make a sailor say, hey, tone it down. Next is Daniel, the conspiracy chess master. He sees patterns where others see coincidences, strings where others see headlines, and he's the only man I've ever seen bring a corkboard to a Zoom meeting. Tonight's topic might actually melt that corkboard, so pray for it. And finally, Skylar, our progressive Green Party self-identified liberal firecracker who somehow sits at this table without spontaneously combusting. She's the climate-conscious, healthcare-loving, student debt-canceling counterweight that keeps this show from tipping into full apocalypse mode. Together, they're the chaos. I'm the calm. And this is Data and Dissonance. All right, folks. Segment 1 starts now. All right, folks, buckle in, because today we're ripping the Band-Aid off the one story the media has been terrified to touch for months. The Donald Trump assassination attempt and the brand new bombshells dropping about Matthew Crooks. And let me say this right now. The fact that we are just now getting this information, after months of silence, red tape, and conveniently missing documents, is proof enough that someone, somewhere, has been sitting on the truth like it's radioactive. The official narrative was already shakier than Biden descending a staircase, and now with these newly unsealed details, Crooks' digital history, his unexplained travel, the shadow contacts, the bureaucratic black holes. Everything smells like a deep state refrigerator that hasn't been opened since the Obama years. So tonight, we're diving headfirst into what they didn't want us to see, who let this kid into position, and whether this was incompetence, negligence, or something far darker. Let's bring in the crew.
All right, so here's the thing. Every single time they say lone wolf, I immediately go looking for the leash. And with these new Matthew Crooks files, the leash is practically glowing neon. We're talking encrypted chats, wiped drives, an anonymous donor paying for parts of his trip, and a full 72 hours of his movements that no agency can properly account for. That is not normal, that is not random, and that is not just some confused kid. No matter how desperately MSNBC tries to frame it, like he was a misunderstood barista who made one bad choice. And don't even get me started on the intelligence failures. Multiple warnings ignored, security perimeters that looked like they were planned by interns, and the Secret Service acting like they were surprised gravity still works. The same people who scream about threats to democracy couldn't be bothered to secure the literal candidate they claim is Voldemort reincarnated. It's pathetic. Somebody knew something, somebody let something slide, and the public is only getting the truth now because the cracks finally split wide enough that even the Democrats couldn't plaster over it with a fresh coat of blame Trump. This isn't conspiracy. It's negligence so blatant it might as well be criminal.
Thank you, Rachel. Hitting the bullseye as always. And speaking of bullseyes, let's bring in the man who's been yelling about this cover-up since hour one. Brian, I know your MAGA blood pressure has been vibrating like an overworked generator waiting for this moment.
Oh, I've been waiting for this day like kids wait for Christmas morning, Artie. Because everything we said back then, everything is now being validated. The media mocked Trump supporters for asking how the hell Crooks got that close, why the Secret Service acted like they were guarding a mall Santa, and why every digital trace of this kid looked like it was curated by the CIA's intern class. And look at that, surprise! The new files show Crooks wasn't some random dude with a grudge. Feds had warnings, locals had warnings. Some agency, they won't name which, flagged his online activity months before the shooting, and yet he waltzed right into a perfect vantage point like he had VIP backstage passes to an assassination. This is the part that pisses me off the most. If this had happened to Biden, oh my God, they would have shut down the entire country, summoned 30 committees, declared National Trauma Hour, lit candles, and probably declared hugging an act of patriotism. But because it was Trump, the left didn't care. They shrugged. They made jokes. Some blue-check psychos celebrated it. And now that all this new info makes their lone wolf loser narrative look like a half-baked lie, they're suddenly quiet, dead, silent, like every Democrat's brain when you ask them who actually benefits from all these cover-ups. The truth is out, and it is ugly.
Brian dropping napalm as usual. Appreciate the consistency, brother. Now let's swing it over to a man who's been connecting dots nobody wanted to look at. Daniel, the conspiracy corkboard is yours. And try not to break it this time.
Artie, this entire situation is exactly what happens when the people pulling the strings lose control of their puppet. Because these files don't read like an assassination attempt. They read like a failed operation. Crooks was too clean, too resourced, too prepared, and too conveniently connected to people who don't remember meeting him. His financials spike out of nowhere. His communications vanish. His movements overlap with three known agitator groups that all claim they've never heard of him. That's statistically impossible unless someone is lying or someone is protecting someone else. And don't overlook this. The new forensic analysis shows he had training. You don't get that steady of a shot with that level of composure under pressure without someone teaching you. The "he taught himself on YouTube" explanation is the dumbest excuse I've ever heard, and I've heard Biden try to explain inflation. The part that stands out to me, the missing escort vehicle that should have blocked his line of sight. That vehicle was cancelled 30 minutes before Trump arrived. No one is taking responsibility for that call. No one. And when no one claims ownership, that means someone high enough to disappear the order gave it. This wasn't just a failure, it was an orchestration gone wrong.
Oh boy, and here we go. Daniel out here reading the Crooks files like it's the director's cut of a Jason Bourne movie. But let's complete the gauntlet. Skylar, our resident Green Party, progressive liberal snowflake chaos tornado. I'm sure you're ready to blame Trump, capitalism, toxic masculinity, or maybe even fossil fuels for this entire ordeal. Floor's yours.
Look, I knew this was coming, but let me be clear. The moment the new Crooks information dropped, my inbox filled with left-wing commentators already trying to spin it. And I'm not playing that game, because whether you love Trump or hate him, assassination attempts should be a red line for every sane person. And the fact that so many people brushed this off, minimized it, or joked about it back then was disgusting. Now we're seeing details that absolutely should have been made public from day one. Warnings ignored, security failures, digital flags, missing files, and investigative dead spots that make zero sense. And no, this wasn't Trump's fault for existing, which is literally something I saw on Twitter today. Some of my fellow progressives have lost their damn minds on this issue. This was a failure of institutions, ones that are supposed to protect all candidates. And the fact that it happened under this level of polarization should terrify everyone, left or right. These revelations don't just expose negligence, they expose how dangerously selective our outrage has become. If we can't agree that an assassination attempt is unacceptable regardless of political affiliation, then we're in deeper trouble than any of us want to admit.
That's the damn truth, Skylar. And it hits harder because it's coming from the left side of the table. Folks, here's the bottom line. The Matthew Crooks files didn't just raise questions, they detonated them. We now have a timeline full of holes, agencies pointing fingers at each other like a dysfunctional family at Thanksgiving, and a media establishment pretending they suddenly forgot how to report on political violence because their least favorite guy was the target. We're talking unexplained money, missing equipment, ignored warnings, vanished records, and a would-be assassin whose backstory looks more curated than a White House press conference. And now that the truth is spilling out, the same people who mocked us for asking questions are scrambling like someone just flipped on the kitchen light. This segment isn't about partisanship. It's about the American public finally seeing, in broad daylight, what really happens when institutions decide certain people don't deserve full protection. And if the system can fail Trump at that level, it can fail any of us. Stick around, because segment 2 is coming up, and the hits keep landing this week. All right, folks, buckle up, because if you thought Washington was the only thing collapsing this week, wait until you see what's happening to the mainstream media. CNN and MSNBC are in full-on panic mode. And I don't mean mild concern. I mean executives pacing around boardrooms like gamblers who just realized their bookie is outside the door. Ratings aren't just down. They've cratered so hard they're probably drilling toward the Earth's core. And it couldn't be more perfect timing, because while the truth about the Crooks documents is coming out, their viewership is going the same direction as their credibility. Straight into the basement. Leaked reports say CNN has held emergency late-night meetings. MSNBC producers are being shuffled like faulty deck chairs on the Titanic, and anchors are begging their writers for anything that will stop the bleeding. Spoiler alert, nothing's working. When your entire business model is built on wishful thinking and orange man bad addiction, you eventually run out of dopamine. Let's roll into the panel. Rachel, I'm tossing this one to you first because nobody dissects media meltdown quite like you. What's going on over there?
Look, let's just call this what it is. Karma with a broadcast license. They spent years feeding the public a steady diet of panic porn, Trump hysteria, manufactured outrage, and whatever anonymous source happened to support their pre-written conclusion. And now that real stories are exploding, like the assassination files, they're getting out-competed by everyday people on the internet with webcams and 2 ounces of common sense. Viewers aren't stupid. They know when they're being lied to. They know when a network quietly shifts from "the truth matters" to "protect the narrative at all costs." And guess what? They tuned out. Now those networks are scrambling to figure out why their viewers would rather watch a guy in his garage breaking down news with a whiteboard than the multi-million-dollar studio setups pretending the world is fine. CNN has fired so many producers, it looks like a revolving door at a failed startup. And MSNBC is losing hosts faster than Chicago is losing residents. And yet they still act shocked, like they didn't cause all of this themselves. You lied, you manipulated, you filtered, you omitted, and you expected everyone to applaud like trained seals. Congratulations, media. You got exactly what you earned.
Thank you, Rachel. Clinically precise and served with a side of righteous fury. Now, for pure entertainment value, let's toss it over to Brian, who has been predicting this media extinction event since before it was cool. Brian, the floor is yours before MSNBC tries to sell it for ad revenue.
Oh, Artie, I've been waiting for this moment like a kid waits for Christmas. I've got popcorn ready, I've got the volume up, and I'm watching these networks implode like a fireworks factory run by interns. CNN is finally realizing that yelling Republicans are the problem. For a decade straight isn't a business model, it's a tantrum. And MSNBC, oh my God, they're losing viewers so fast it's like watching rats evacuate a sinking ship, except the rats have better survival instincts. Do you know how bad it has to be for a network to call an emergency staff meeting at 2 a.m.? That's not a, we need to adjust our strategy meeting. That's a, pack your stuff, the creditors are here meeting. They built their entire empire on hating Trump. And now that their favorite boogeyman is about to expose half the government with real documents, not some made-up Russian fan fiction, they don't know what to do. They can't talk about the Crooks files because they spent months pretending the attempt wasn't a big deal. They can't talk about the border because that would implicate their own political tribe. They can't even talk about Biden without needing a thesaurus for declining. So what do they talk about? Nothing. They're just filling air with meaningless filler, hoping no one notices the walls collapsing. Too late. We noticed.
Brian out here roasting cable news like he's auditioning for a Netflix special. Now let's turn to Daniel, whose conspiracy board has probably been upgraded to a full tactical command center in light of these media revelations. Daniel, walk us through what you're seeing behind the curtain.
Artie, the crash in ratings isn't the story, it's the symptom. What we're witnessing is the unraveling of a mutually beneficial ecosystem between political power brokers and their media mouthpieces. When the Crooks information started leaking, networks panicked because they had already committed themselves to a storyline. They can't pivot without admitting they were wrong, and they really can't pivot when the release of true information threatens the people they're aligned with. So instead of reporting, they retreated, they stalled, they filled time with irrelevant distractions, celebrity gossip, and panels full of experts who all somehow have identical talking points. Ratings didn't drop because people stopped watching the news. They dropped because people stopped watching propaganda. And here's the part everyone's missing. Declining ratings weaken the media's political leverage. When CNN can't deliver the audience, political operatives stop giving them exclusives. When MSNBC can't influence public sentiment, donors stop funding the narratives. The machine isn't just stuttering, it's losing fuel. And when the media loses power, the institutions they protect become exposed. That's what you're seeing now. The Crooks files aren't just rattling Washington, they're destabilizing the entire propaganda structure built around it.
Daniel, as always, making it sound like CNN's basement is the real Area 51. Now let's swing to the left side of the table. Skylar, your people watch MSNBC like it's the Book of Psalms. What's going on over there?
Okay, first of all, my people is doing a lot of work there. But I'll say this, even progressives are tuning out mainstream networks because the content has become stale, predictable, and out of touch. It's not just conservatives leaving, but it's everybody. MSNBC isn't losing viewers because they're too progressive. They're losing viewers because they stopped being informative. They repeat the same talking points, the same angles, the same panelists who barely scratch the surface on real issues people actually care about. And yeah, they're absolutely mishandling the Crooks revelations because instead of covering the facts, they're worried about how it might shift public opinion. That's not journalism. That's curation. And as someone on the left, I'll say it plainly. The media's obsession with protecting narratives instead of reporting truth has pushed people toward independent outlets, not because they're conservative, because they're honest. And the networks have no one to blame but themselves.
Perfectly said, Skylar. And that right there is the heart of it. Media collapse isn't a glitch. It's accountability. These networks spent years treating truth like a trampoline, bouncing over anything that didn't fit their storyline. But the second Americans got a taste of unfiltered, unmanufactured information from creators, investigators, real people, the spell broke. Now CNN and MSNBC are watching their empires crumble faster than a soft-serve machine at McDonald's. They wanted control without responsibility, influence without accuracy, and loyalty without honesty. But the American people finally called the bluff. And when trust evaporates, ratings follow. Stick around, because after Satire 1, we're diving into Segment 3. The National Guard standoff heating up across multiple states. And yes, it's as chaotic as it sounds.
In completely shocking, absolutely unpredictable news, CNN has announced a bold new strategy to fix their collapsing ratings. They're switching from news to whatever we can get people to accidentally click on. According to insiders, the new programming lineup will include Anderson Cooper reacts to TikToks, dogs that look like Democrats, and a cooking show called You Can't Burn This Worse Than Our Credibility. Meanwhile, MSNBC has responded with an emergency rebranding of their own. Starting Monday, they'll simply run a 24-hour live stream of Rachel Maddow staring directly into the camera while whispering, "This is fine, this is fine, this is totally fine." And if ratings continue dropping, executives say they're prepared to take drastic measures, including replacing every anchor with ChatGPT and a raccoon wearing glasses. And honestly, the raccoon might actually pull higher numbers.
All right, folks, it's time to dig into the powder keg that's got Washington pacing like a parent at a parent-teacher conference. Because while the media is crashing and the Crooks revelations are shaking D.C. like an earthquake, the country's now watching something even bigger unfold. Multiple states squaring up against the federal government over National Guard authority. Governors are refusing directives, federal officials are threatening legal action, and the White House is doing its best impression of a confused substitute teacher trying to regain control of a classroom full of angry 8-year-olds. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a butter knife, and still hit constitutional questions underneath. Some states are declaring the feds overstepped, some are calling it self-defense, and others are quietly preparing to do the same without saying the part out loud yet. So yeah, if you feel like the country's entering its choose your fighter phase, you're not wrong. Let's get the panel in on this before somebody in DC inevitably blames climate change or TikTok dances for everything. Rachel, break this down for us. What's the truth behind this standoff actually looking like?
Look, let's just get something out of the way. Nobody ends up in a National Guard showdown because everything's going great. States don't wake up one morning and decide, you know what would make today awesome? A federal confrontation. This kind of escalation only happens when trust in federal institutions is at absolute rock bottom. And honestly, who in this country does trust them right now? The states pushing back are doing it because they've been ignored, undermined, and gaslit for years, especially on immigration and border security. The feds love to posture with threats and lawsuits, but they never deliver solutions that actually protect people on the ground. And now governors are saying, fine, if you won't handle it, we will, and we'll use our guard to do it. And the federal government's response? Not negotiation, not collaboration. Nope. They went straight to, we command your troops now, which is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline in a strongly worded email. If the feds truly believe they can bully sovereign states into compliance while those states are dealing with real threats, they're out of their minds. This isn't rebellion. This is reality finally smacking Washington across the face.
Beautifully put, Rachel. Sharp, surgical, and already giving the DOJ heartburn. All right, Brian, your turn. I know you've been waiting all week to talk about states giving the feds the political middle finger. What's your read?
Artie, this is the moment conservatives have been warning about since the Bush years, the Obama years, the Biden years. Hell, all the years ending in ears. This isn't some minor bureaucratic turf war. This is states saying, we're done letting Washington screw things up and then blame us for the mess. And honestly, I love every second of it. Governors finally grew a spine. They're telling the feds, if you can't control the border, if you won't enforce the law, if you refuse to protect our people, then don't you dare tell us how to run our National Guard. The Constitution is crystal clear. States have rights, states have authority, And states are not just customers waiting for federal permission slips. Watching the White House demand compliance is hilarious because they've lost the moral authority to demand anything. You ignored the border crisis, you ignored cartel infiltration, you ignored threats on both sides of the aisle, and now you want states to hand you their only functional tool? Good luck with that. If the feds push harder, you're gonna see more states join in, and this is how political earthquakes start. The feds gambled, and they're losing.
Brian out here loading constitutional artillery like he's recreating 1776 on a Tuesday. Daniel, I'm looking at you, and I can already tell your conspiracy board is glowing like a Christmas tree. Walk us through the deeper layers here.
Artie, this isn't just a standoff, it's a stress test. When institutions know they're losing credibility, they start tightening their grip. And what we're seeing from the federal government isn't strength. It's panic in slow motion. The timing is too perfect. Crooks' revelations destabilizing trust in security agencies, media losing influence, border chaos worsening, and now the very tool the feds rely on for rapid response, the National Guard, slipping out of their control. This is why they're freaking out. They need the Guard because they know the next major crisis, whatever it is, won't be handled with press conferences and carefully curated headlines. They need leverage, and governors denying federal activation orders is a direct threat to that leverage. And here's the part nobody's talking about. Once states realize they can effectively neuter federal overreach by controlling their Guard units, it becomes precedent, a domino effect. One state stands up, then another, then another. And once that line is crossed, the dynamic of American power shifts permanently. This standoff isn't about policy, it's about institutional survival.
Daniel giving us the political twilight zone again. And surprisingly, it all makes more sense than whatever the White House statement of the day is. Skylar, let's swing to your side. What's the progressive view here? Are states pushing back too hard? Or are the feds handling this like amateurs?
Honestly, the feds are handling this terribly. Even from a left-leaning perspective, this is a communication failure, a coordination failure, and a credibility failure all rolled into one. You can't demand compliance without trust. You can't ask states to follow your lead when your lead has been inconsistent for years. The border crisis isn't a partisan illusion. It's real. And state-level pressure isn't sabotage. It's desperation. Even progressives I know are saying the same thing. Washington waited too long to take the problem seriously, and now states are stepping into the vacuum. The federal government should be leading with partnership, not force. And if they keep pushing aggressive orders instead of solutions, they're going to turn this standoff into a full national fracture. We're one bad decision away from triggering a constitutional fight nobody's prepared for. And the irony, all of this could have been avoided if the feds just did their job competently in the first place.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Skylar. Folks, what you're seeing right now is a country testing its own limits. The federal government is discovering that its authority only works when the states believe in it. And when that belief breaks, whether through incompetence, negligence, or corruption, the states step in. This standoff isn't fringe. It isn't symbolic. It is a real-time battle for who actually governs America when things go sideways. The feds want obedience, the states want autonomy, and the American people want results. And if Washington can't deliver those results, then this conflict is only the beginning. Stay with us, because after the merch drop, we roll into final thoughts. All right, folks, before we roll into final thoughts, it's time for the part of the show that keeps the lights on, the coffee flowing, and the AI panelists from unionizing. The Data and Dissonance merch drop. If you're listening right now thinking, man, I could use something bold, patriotic, and guaranteed to offend at least one liberal today, then buckle up. We've got exactly what you need. We've got the High Lakes Light Roast, the Rock Creek Medium, and the Bitterroot Dark Roast. 3 coffee blends roasted right here in the USA. Strong enough to wake up Congress and smooth enough to make CNN jealous. Every bag supports the show, keeps the panel caffeinated, and funds the ongoing effort to expose stupidity nationwide. And if coffee's not your style, we've got shirts, hoodies, mugs, tote bags, trucker hats, socks, and bumper stickers, including our brand new Gen designs. Whether you want to walk into a room and say, "I'm here to stir the pot," or simply show your support for the show that tells the truth without a teleprompter, we've got you covered. Hit the merch store, grab your gear, grab your coffee, and support independent voices that refuse to bend. Because every purchase helps us keep speaking truth, stirring thought, and roasting the powers that be. All right, let's get into final thoughts.
Look, Artie, at the end of the day, everything we talked about tonight points to the same damn truth. This country is starving for honesty. People are sick of the lies, sick of the manipulation, sick of the government acting like we're children who can't handle reality. When the Crooks documents come out and expose how incompetent or outright corrupt our institutions have become, that's not chaos. That's clarity. And the media collapsing? That's not a tragedy. That's overdue. You can only lie to the American people for so long before they tune you out and find someone else who tells it straight. And this National Guard standoff? That's what happens when states finally say, enough. We're watching America rediscover its backbone, and I say it's about damn time. Because the truth is simple. This country works best when the people are in charge. Not the bureaucrats, not the anchors, not the agencies. If Washington won't fix the problems, the American people and the states will. And tonight proved that more than anything.
What stands out to me after everything we covered tonight is how much of this chaos could have been avoided if transparency mattered to the people running this country. The Crooks files weren't just mishandled, they were buried. And that's the theme across the board. A media industry collapsing because it forgot how to be truthful. A federal government shocked that states are pushing back after ignoring them for years. Institutions demanding trust without earning it. And it all comes back to the same pattern. If you keep hiding the truth long enough, eventually the truth breaks out on its own. And it's always uglier when it's forced into daylight. Tonight wasn't a story about dysfunction. It was about consequences. Consequences for lying. Consequences for arrogance. Consequences for assuming the public will never question anything. And honestly, I'm glad this is where we are. You can't fix a problem you refuse to acknowledge. And now the problems are out in the open where they belong.
Here's the thing, Artie. Tonight's stories aren't separate events. They're signals. You line them up, and you see the arc of a country hitting the inflection point of a much bigger cycle. A failed assassination narrative cracking open. Media influence collapsing. States challenging federal power. These aren't coincidences. They're pressure points converging at the same time, exposing a system losing operational control. And once those fractures appear, they don't heal, they spread. The institutions that rely on public perception are losing that perception. The institutions that rely on central authority are losing that authority. And the institutions that rely on secrecy are losing their ability to keep secrets. That's how you know the old framework is collapsing. We're in the early phases of a reset. Not the conspiracy kind, with shadow groups in suits, but the real kind. The moment in a nation's life where the people decide whether they keep trusting broken structures or start rebuilding new ones. Tonight was a reminder that the cracks aren't the end, they're the beginning.
What hits me tonight is how much of this instability is rooted in the same thing. Neglect. The Crooks situation happened because institutions stopped taking threats seriously. The media collapse is happening because networks stopped taking truth seriously. And the National Guard standoff is happening because the federal government stopped taking people's concerns seriously. Whether you're conservative or progressive, everyone can feel that the country is running on autopilot while the people in charge keep telling us everything's fine. But nothing changes until leadership actually listens. Not to donors, not to consultants, not to party strategists, but to the people living with the consequences. And that's why you're seeing states step up, communities step up, and independent voices blow past the networks. The old system failed because it stopped serving the public. Whatever comes next has to be built on accountability, transparency, and actual empathy. Or we'll be having the same conversation a decade from now. This is a turning point, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to build something better.
You know, nights like this remind me why this show exists in the first place. We're living in a country where the people in charge keep telling us to ignore what we're seeing, to forget what we've lived through, and to trust institutions that can't even trust themselves. We watched a presidential assassination attempt get brushed under the rug until the truth clawed its way out. We watched the media, the same people who were supposed to keep power in check, collapse because they traded honesty for narratives. And now we're watching states push back against a federal government that forgot the difference between leadership and authority. None of this is normal. None of this is small. These aren't forgettable headlines. These are the chapters history books look back on and say, this is where the country shifted. But here's the part that gives me hope. The American people haven't folded. Not even close. We're watching citizens demand answers, states demand accountability, and communities demand better than the broken status quo. We're watching truth slip past the gatekeepers, no matter how hard they try to hold it back. And we're watching a nation that's tired, frustrated, divided, and bruised, but still standing, still fighting, still refusing to let corruption and incompetence define who we are. That's the part the elites never understand. This country doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us. The people who live the consequences, who raise families through the uncertainty, who hold on to faith when the system gives us none. So as we wrap up tonight, remember this. The cracks we're seeing aren't signs of collapse. They're signs of exposure. And once the truth is exposed, change becomes inevitable. Stay aware. Stay engaged. Stay unafraid. Because the only thing more powerful than a corrupt institution is an informed American who refuses to be lied to. And as long as we're here, as long as we're paying attention, as long as we keep demanding better, this country still has a fighting chance. Remember to speak truth, stir thought. Tonight's episode is brought to you by the Caleb Rourke Thriller series, the action-packed, high-intensity universe that dives into covert operations, political deception, and the kind of deep-state shadows that make today's headlines look like warm-up drills. If you haven't grabbed Book 1, The Covenant Protocol, now's the time. It's the story that kicked open the door. Global stakes, hidden agendas, a world on the brink, and a protagonist who discovers that the truth is never what it seems. Then there's Book 2, The Prophet Directive, where the conspiracy deepens, the danger escalates, and the line between loyalty and survival gets razor thin. Fans keep asking why the series jumps where it does. And trust me, every answer is intentional. Every fragment, every cliffhanger, every detail is part of a much bigger picture. And get ready, because Book 3, Black Echo Rising, drops this December. Bigger stakes, darker secrets, and the revelations readers have been waiting for since page 1. 3 books, 1 universe, 0 apologies. Grab them now on Amazon, paperback, or Kindle, and dive into the world that started this whole movement. The Caleb Rourke Thriller series. Once you start, you won't stop.